It was supposed to be just another night at the Silvergate Arena in Detroit, 1987. Another loud, sweaty, sold-out concert for the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne. Thousands of fans would scream, lights would explode, pyrotechnics would roar. But backstage, one man nobody noticed was about to make a decision that would change everything. The forgotten worker Raymond "Ray" Carter was 54 years old and invisible to most people. He'd been mopping floors and sweeping aisles in arenas like this for nearly 20 years. A Vietnam veteran with a bad knee and a quiet dignity, Ray wasn't afraid of hard work. He just wished someone, anyone, would remember his name at the end of a shift. His hands were rough, his uniform faded, and his eyes carried that faraway look of men who've seen more than they'll ever say. Every night he clocked in after the noise had died down, when the lights dimmed and the world forgot about the janitor who made sure the floor was clean for the next act. But Ray wasn't bitter. He had something worth more than any paycheck: his daughter, Emily, 17, bright and endlessly curious. She wanted to become a doctor, but college costs were impossible. Ray promised her he'd find a way, even if it meant working until his body gave out. That night, the Silvergate Arena buzzed like a living machine. Roadies shouted orders, sparks from stage lights burst like fireflies, and technicians hurried to finish final checks for Ozzy's show. Ray had seen hundreds of concerts, but none like this. The Ozzy Osbourne tour was chaos on legs. Cables everywhere. Flames, smoke, and fireproof gel in every corner. Ray kept his distance, mopping the far hallway behind the stage. He wasn't one for loud music anymore, but he liked watching the people, how they all revolved around one man. Ozzy, rehearsing under the bright stage lights, looked both larger than life and strangely fragile, a man wrapped in noise to keep his demons quiet. The spark in the shadows. By the time the band finished soundcheck, most staff had left for a quick meal. Ray stayed behind as usual. He worked quietly, humming under his breath as he cleaned the backstage generator corridor, a place few people even noticed. He liked it there. It was quiet, away from the madness. Then it happened. A faint, acrid smell cut through the air. At first, he ignored it. Another cigarette butt, he thought. But within seconds, the smell grew sharper. Something was burning. Ray turned toward the fuse box along the far wall. That's when he saw it. A thin, ghostly wisp of smoke curling upward, shimmering under the emergency light. The smell of melting plastic filled his nose. "Damn it," he muttered. He stepped closer. Wires inside the box glowed faintly orange. A small spark popped like a match head. He looked around. The nearest crew door was locked. He pounded on it with his fist. "Hey, anybody in there?" No answer. Everyone was probably at the pre-show briefing on the other side of the arena. The clock above him ticked, 19 minutes to showtime. He didn't have time to wait. The Fire Ray's instincts, the same ones that once kept him alive in a jungle halfway across the world, kicked in. He grabbed a mop handle, wedged it under the latch, and broke the lock with one sharp hit. Inside, the generator room glowed with the dull light of machinery. A power converter near the main panel hissed softly. One of the wires had shorted out. A fuel canister half open sat dangerously close. One more spark and the entire backstage area would have gone up in flames, just as Ozzy was about to step on stage. "Not today," Ray whispered. He tore off his work jacket, wrapped it around his hand, and yanked open the fuse box. A surge of sparks shot out, electric blue and white scorching his sleeve. He stumbled back, coughing, eyes watering from the smoke. He grabbed a fire extinguisher off the wall and hit the release. A burst of foam hissed across the panel, covering the wires in white frost, but the heat was spreading fast. The emergency light flickered, and suddenly, the smoke alarm screamed to life. Ray could barely see. He stumbled toward the breaker switch, pulled it down with both hands, and in an instant, half the arena went dark. Out front, the crowd gasped. Stage lights flickered out. The music stopped. Backstage crew members yelled in confusion, "Who cut the power?" But inside that smoke-filled room, Ray knew the truth. That blackout had just prevented an explosion. He slumped against the wall, gasping, heart hammering in his chest. The acrid smell faded slowly as the last sparks died out. Chaos and consequence. It didn't take long before security burst in. Two men in black shirts grabbed Ray by the arms, pulling him out into the hallway. "What the hell did you do?" one shouted. Ray tried to speak, coughing. Fire! In the generator. I shut it down. Sabotage? Another yelled. You trying to ruin the show? They dragged him down the corridor toward the green room where chaos had erupted. Technicians scrambled, wires tangled, and one of the stage managers was yelling into a radio. Then, like a storm, Ozzy Osbourne himself appeared, furious, pacing, eyeliner smudged, half in stage costume. Who the bloody hell cut my power? He roared. We're about to go live! Everyone pointed at Ray, the janitor in a smoke-stained uniform, hair damp, hands trembling. Ozzy stepped closer, eyes blazing. You, the cleaner? Ray looked up, exhausted, soot streaked across his face. Yes, sir. The wire was cooking. I saw smoke. I had to pull the breaker, Ozzy scoffed. You cost me a show, mate. Do you have any idea— Sir, Ray interrupted, voice firm but steady. Another 30 seconds and you wouldn't have had a show. You'd have had a fire. Maybe worse. The room went silent. A technician rushed in, holding a melted wire in his hand. He looked up, pale. He's right. The main fuse was burning through. The fuel tank beside it. It was seconds away. Everyone froze. For a moment, even the air seemed to stop moving. Ozzy's eyes widened as he realized how close they'd all come. Ray's hands were trembling now, not from fear, but adrenaline. His forearm was red and blistered from the sparks. A paramedic moved in to check him, but Ray waved him off. I'm fine, he muttered. Just needed to stop the fire. Ozzy stared at him, really looked for the first time. This wasn't just a janitor. This was a man who'd faced fire before, on battlefields in life and tonight, in a place built for noise and lights. Get him water, Ozzy said quietly. The entire crew fell silent, obeying without question. A conversation in the quiet. Half an hour later, after the show was delayed and inspected, Ozzy walked into the small medical bay backstage. Ray sat on a bench, arm bandaged, staring at the floor. He looked tired, but calm. Ozzy sat beside him, no cameras, no entourage. Just two men who had seen too much fire in their lives. Ray, right? Ozzy asked softly. Yes, sir. I heard what happened. You saved my life. Saved a lot of lives tonight. Ray shook his head. Just did my job, Ozzy chuckled. You call running into a burning fuse box a job? Ray smiled faintly. In Vietnam, they called it Tuesday. For the first time that night, Ozzy laughed. It wasn't his wild rock star laugh. It was real, low, human. Then he grew serious. You've been working here long? 6 years at this arena. 20 in total, Ray said. Just trying to keep things clean. Ozzy studied him. You got family? My daughter, Emily, smart kid. Smarter than me. She know her dad's a bloody hero? Ray shrugged. She just wants to be a doctor. I'm trying to make that happen. Ozzy leaned forward, elbows on his knees, thinking. You know, people like me, we make noise. But people like you keep the lights from going out. Ray looked at him, unsure how to respond. Ozzy turned to the medic nearby. Get this man a proper check, and someone find him a clean jacket. A life changed overnight the next morning when the papers ran headlines about the brief power failure during Ozzy's show. Nobody mentioned Ray Carter, but inside the Osbourne tour bus, his name came up more than once. Ozzy couldn't shake it, the image of that burned janitor saving his crew. He told his manager, find him. I want him at the next stop. 2 days later, Ray got a call from the arena office. They said Ozzy wanted to meet him again. Officially. He thought it was a mistake, but he showed up anyway. When he arrived, Ozzy was sitting on the steps of the tour bus, sunglasses off, sipping coffee. Ray, my bloody hero, he said with that grin only Ozzy has. Ray laughed nervously. Just glad you're all right, sir. Ozzy reached behind him, pulled out a folded piece of paper. Actually, it was a napkin, with handwriting scrawled in black ink. Consider this your contract, Ozzy said. You're on the crew now. Fire safety, backstage support, whatever you want to call it. You work with us, Ray blinked. Sir, I'm a janitor. Not anymore, you're not, Ozzy said. You're family. And family looks out for each other. Ray didn't know what to say. His hands shook as he took the napkin. Ozzy just grinned wider. Welcome to the madhouse, Ray Carter. That night, as the new crew prepared for another show, Ray stood by the stage, wearing a fresh black jacket with the Osbourne Tour logo stitched on the sleeve. He still couldn't believe it. The crowd roared, the lights flared, and somewhere deep inside, he felt something he hadn't in years: pride. Ozzy passed him on his way to the stage, gave him a wink, and said, "Let's keep it fire-free tonight, yeah?" Ray laughed for the first time in a long while. He didn't know then that this one act of courage, one moment of instinct, would ripple far beyond the smoke and the stage. It would change his daughter's future and tie his family to Ozzy's in ways he could never imagine. But that part of the story, the part about promises, second chances, and the kind of gratitude that lasts a lifetime, would come later. For now, Ray Carter, the janitor who saved Ozzy Osbourne's life, stood backstage, watching the lights blaze safely across the arena, the sound of music echoing through every corner of the place he once cleaned in silence. And for the first time ever, he wasn't invisible anymore. Ray didn't belong in the chaos of a rock and roll tour. The first night on the road, he sat quietly in the corner of the tour bus, clutching his old canvas bag like a life vest in a storm. Around him, the road crew laughed, smoked, shouted, and played pranks like rowdy pirates. The walls shook with the echo of electric, guitars bleeding through the speakers. He was a 58-year-old janitor who used to clean stadium floors, and now he was standing in the middle of a whirlwind called Ozzy Osbourne's. World Tour.Ozzy had insisted he join the team. "You've got a better sense of danger than half these pyrotechnics guys," Ozzy had joked. "I'd rather have you watching the fire exits than the fire start again." At first, the crew didn't know what to make of Ray. They called him Mop Man. He barely spoke unless someone spoke to him. But every night before the show, when the chaos built and the lights dimmed, Ray quietly made his rounds, checking the exits, inspecting cables, watching over the stage like a guardian nobody noticed. One night in Boston, he stopped a faulty smoke machine from catching fire. Another night in Denver, he caught a drunk roadie trying to climb the light rig. Each time he handled it calmly, quietly, no need for thanks. The others started calling him the angel with a mop. Ozzy noticed everything. He'd often find Ray alone after the show, mopping the stage floor as the crew packed up. "You ever sleep, mate?" Ozzy asked once, sitting beside him, still in his black leather jacket, eyeliner smudged. "Sleep's a luxury," Ray replied with a small grin. "I just like keeping things clean. Helps me think." Over time, their friendship grew. Ozzy would sometimes join him in the quiet after the storm, those late nights when even the amplifiers seemed to sigh. They'd talk about life in fragments. Ozzy about the madness of fame, the guilt of past mistakes. Ray about long factory shifts, his late wife and his daughter Emily, the only light in his tired world. "You're the first bloke I've met who doesn't want anything from me," Ozzy said one night. "I already got what I needed," Ray replied softly. "A second chance to be useful." And just like that, a rock star and a janitor found something rare. Respect that didn't need applause. It was a freezing night in Chicago. The concert had just ended, the crowd's roar fading like thunder down the streets. Ozzy was in his dressing room wiping the sweat off his face when he heard a faint voice outside the door. Ray, talking on the phone. "I know, sweetheart. I'm proud of you," Ray said, his voice trembling. "We'll find a way, yeah? Maybe next year." Ozzy paused, listening through the cracked door. Ray's voice had the softness of a man trying not to break. "You got into the university, that's what matters. I'll pick up more shifts after this tour. Don't worry about me." Then silence, except for the faint sound of Ray's exhale, heavy with defeat. The next morning, Ozzy called for Ray. His tone was serious, but his eyes glimmered with something else. On the table lay a sealed envelope and a white envelope marked for Emily. "What's this?" Ray asked, confused. "It's from a friend," Ozzy said simply. "For your daughter. University tuition, first year covered." Ray's hand shook as he opened it. Inside was a letter and a check that nearly made him drop to his knees. I can't accept this, Ozzy." "You can," Ozzy interrupted. "You will. You saved my life, mate. Now let me return the favor." Ray stared at him, the same man he once saw as a distant, untouchable rock god, now just a friend with a kind heart. Tears welled in his eyes, but Ozzy just grinned, pretending not to notice. "Tell Emily," Ozzy added, lighting a cigarette. "It's from a bloke who believes in second chances." That night, Ray called his daughter. For the first time in years, his voice cracked with pure joy. "You're going to college, Em," he whispered. "You're really going." He didn't tell her who paid. He only said, "Some angels wear leather jackets." Time rolled like tour buses across endless highways. Ray stayed with the Osbourne crew for more than a decade. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. He became part of the backbone, the man everyone trusted when things went wrong. Whenever a new crew member joined, the veterans would point at him and whisper, "That's Ray, the man who stopped the fire." Ozzy's fame continued to soar, but he never let the world forget Ray's quiet heroism. During one concert, Ozzy even told the crowd, "You know, not all heroes play guitar. Some carry mops." Ray laughed when he heard it backstage. He didn't like the spotlight, but deep down it felt good to be seen. Meanwhile, Emily thrived. She graduated with honors in biology, then went on to medical school. On the day she became Dr. Emily Caldwell, a small video message arrived. Ozzy appeared on the screen, wearing sunglasses and a mischievous grin. "Emily, your old man's a legend. You've got his courage, kid. Never forget where that takes you. Love from Uncle Ozzy," Emily cried. Not because of the message itself, but because she finally understood the truth her father had kept quiet for years. Years passed. The tour slowed. The stages grew smaller, the lights softer. Ray's hair turned silver, his steps slower. Eventually, he retired to a small house on the edge of town. One autumn afternoon, a familiar black SUV pulled up outside. Out stepped Ozzy, older now, his walk slower, but his eyes still wild with that same spark. Ray opened the door before he could knock. "You found the place, huh? You didn't think I'd miss my old guardian angel, did you?" They sat together on the porch, the sun melting into the horizon. They didn't need to speak much. Sometimes friendship is built on shared silence, the kind forged by moments that once could have ended everything. "Remember that night in Detroit?" Ozzy said finally. "How could I forget? I still smell the smoke. You saved my arse, mate." "Never got to say it proper." "You did," Ray smiled. "Every time you called me back." Months later, Ray grew ill. His heart, worn from years of hard labor, began to fail. Emily stayed by his side, her medical training useless against time. Then one day a letter arrived, embossed with gold trim and a batwing seal. It was from Ozzy. Inside, a message and a newspaper clipping. Osbourne Foundation launches Emily Caldwell Scholarship for Working Families. Emily read the words aloud, tears streaming. "Dad, he started a scholarship in my name. For people like you." Ray smiled faintly, his voice thin as air. "Told you, kid. Always check the fire." A few weeks later, he passed peacefully. A photo on his nightstand. 2 men laughing backstage. One in a janitor's uniform, the other holding a microphone. Years later, in Emily's office, that same photograph hangs in a wooden frame. Underneath, a small engraved plaque reads, "Heroes come in overalls, not capes." Sometimes patients ask her about it. She always smiles and says, "That's my dad and his friend, the one who kept his promise." And somewhere in the echo of a distant crowd, you can almost hear Ozzy's voice, half laughter, half tears, and whispering, "You saved me once, Ray, and you're still saving people now."